I'm Christian Abbott.
I'm Nathan Lavender.
I'm Sean Abbott.
And this is the Red Mist Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Red Mist Podcast, episode 30, the Michael Waltrip Countryside Lemonade special. On tonight's episode, we'll discuss a sacking at Ferrari, Formula 1 and IndyCar news, and holiday podcast news. Nate, Christian, it's finally happened.
Here we are.
Mattia is no more.
No.
Yeah, finally.
No.
He handed. I'm going to say it was mutual.
Yeah.
Because I don't think if he resigned, I think he was going to get sacked. But, anyways, somebody's.
Well, I mean,
unfortunately, someone's head had a roll.
so like, is this like? Look, like, he kind of saw the handwriting on the wall after his hellacious, 3, maybe 4 seasons of being team principal.
I don't think. I think
Monaco was up there with the worst race.
I think this year. I think the expectation was that they were going to be in the fight to the end of the season. Is that correct? Is that correct? It started off that way.
It was portrayed that way.
Right. And I think the expectation at Ferrari was that they were going to fight for the
especially after the first 3 races. I will say that this is the only thing I'll give him is that. Well, I shouldn't say the only thing.
What would you give him?
The one point I will concede is he. It was like race 4 or 5, and he said, look, it's only 5 weeks into the season. Let's not look too far down the road because we don't know what they're going to be able to do, what we're going to be able to do. So, I mean, he was kind of covering any of that and just diverting the question a little bit. But I mean, he's also right in the fact that you're so far early in the season, you don't know which way the season is going to go, and if it's really the first season with a better understanding of the cost cap and what can and can't be done, because you've had a year of knowing where you can kind of push stuff and where you can't. You're taking that into account and learning. And I think in terms of development, I heard that, or I shouldn't say I heard. I read that Ferrari might have overspent at the beginning of the year, so then they couldn't really bring any updates towards the end. So the car's development might have just stalled halfway through the season. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. I don't know, but that is if that is the truth, then I don't really know how. Then all I gotta say is Red Bull just managed their money better, and they probably developed a car. They can develop a car a lot better with the time that they have.
True.
So,
Nate, any other thoughts?
I gotta say, like, there was a lot of things that were obviously, out of their control. Like, one thing I can think of is, actually 2 maybe, is like in Spain when Charles Leclerc's engine let go, and then in France when Charles Leclerc made a mistake. And there was even like 3 races where Carlos Sainz just couldn't make it a few laps and like just ended up in the gravel trap a few times. So, I mean, I think it's, if you're looking at the whole picture, I mean, I think it's, the drivers, having their, mulligan rounds. Like, I believe in a championship, you're going to have 1 or 2 mulligan rounds guaranteed.
Yep.
You just got to brace yourself for that. But my problem is, if you're going to make bad calls, like that's just, those are, I feel like there's avoidable situations you can get yourself into, like Monaco is just the one that screams at me. I didn't pick Charles Leclerc to win. I just thought it would be something like a gearbox issue, right? One year, and then all of a sudden, something else. All right, I didn't think it'd be Ferrari strategy, but they double stacked the worst way possible. They had, Carlos Sainz your number 2 guy, but you have him first and then Charles Leclerc. Yikes! Because now you're losing, you're losing time and more so spots on the track. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's where it becomes a problem. Look, you stumble on the biggest race of the season, and just from there on out, there was just a couple of races where they just really shot themselves in the foot. They add up. The mistakes add up, and it really shows at the end of the season that you really aren't in it.
I think where he is getting called to the carpet on, and this is where I think the Ferrari management is having a problem. I don't think it's on the technical side, because I think the car is definitely fast, and everything. They brought in 2 good drivers. Now he has to bring those drivers in. Mm-hmm. I think he probably has to sign it. Like, at least he has the initial sign off, and it goes up the chain from there to Ferrari's managing directors and such. But the day-to-day race weekend stuff, he is accountable for. Okay, so
right, yeah, someone you have to be the one out there that takes the hits and absorbs them.
So he was taking the hits and whatever. He took the hits, but some of these issues, I'm trying to, if I was sitting there and this was an IndyCar race and this was, say, Binotto was, there was no Tim Cindric, okay? And Binotto was doing the shots at Penske, right? If this went on, like the stuff went on, this he would never made the end of the season. The third race, if something happened, Penske would have fired him. But it started. That's he's the one that's got to pull that together. And they had the weekends where they had the couple weekends in a row where it was a clown show last year too, wasn't it?
A lot of times, but
so
I'd even say it's more so this year.
I think it just ramped up more this year, and I think there was a cluster of 3 races where it was these just stupid mistakes, and at the end of the weekend it's it's like this. I pat him on the back. It's like you just gave away points in the championship.
Yeah, British Grand Prix,
and. That's the kind of you can't have that. So I think had he made changes on the pit wall, now I know it's impossible to make changes mid-season. It's a what, but they should have been looking at that last year, because I think last year was the same. There was some issues. So I think the carryover effect into this year is I think this is where they were gonna. Ferrari's managing group, the head of Stellantis and Ferrari and Fiat, whatever. This is if this didn't change, and it to the point where it was embarrassing and it made him look like a laughingstock. Mm-hmm. People are going, your car is great. You got 2 good drivers. Mm-hmm. You were competing at the beginning of the season, and if it's so that they were spending money and whatever, and then they were like, oh, we can't, the development got ahead. They got too far ahead on the development. Mm-hmm. Should have just kind of went in stages. But the stuff, just the in-race stuff or the in-weekend stuff on the pit wall was just dumb. Mm-hmm. Honestly, for a team like Ferrari, it can't happen. And, case in point, it proves any, a blind squirrel can find a nut any day, and it proved it at Brazil when Haas just went, we're going for it, and we're ready to go, and they pulled right out of the pit lane. Mm-hmm. And, Red Bull was second, and I bet you they were kind of pissed that they got beat to the end of the row, but nothing they could do. Fair play to Ferrari. Haas. But where were the Ferrari guys? back of the grid, stuck in traffic.
And one of them,
on the wrong tire. I mean, this is this kind of stuff.
I'm also of the opinion too that Binotto is not the only one that is at fault for this season. Like, it takes a team, and it's not one person, right?
But somebody, you can't fire a team. You can fire the head coach.
So I do think that there is, because they say strategy is the issue. Well, okay, if strategy really is the issue, right, and you take out the mechanical DNFs and the other driver mistakes and errors there. If you take that out and just look at strategy by itself, the one thing I will say is Mercedes has dominated for the past decade. So close enough.
Right.
When you have a car that's so far out ahead of everyone else, you start to lose that edge, which you saw in parts of 2020 and definitely in 21.
Yep.
Because I think Mercedes got kind of spooked with Red Bull.
I think the last year definitely.
And got caught off guard.
Yep.
That was definitely it. However, the years leading up to that, where it was definitely the one instance that I can recall is Max at Silverstone, where I think this was in 2020, where he was behind Lewis and had a shot to go for the win, and it was really just and his engineer was like, "Oh, just back the pace off," and he's like, "No, like I'm right here.
Chance,
Let me go for it." I think that mentality there changed the mindset of how they went for it.
Was that also the race where did Hamilton win that race when the tire went?
It might have been that one too.
But the point being is that Ferrari started to get challenged, and we started to see flaws in their strategy making.
Right, but you see how calm Red Bull had been this year with strategy, and even if it didn't go their way, they weren't worried about it.
Yeah, and they mucked it up on a couple occasions that could have helped Checo, notably at Brazil.
Yep.
But there were a couple other races where they mucked it up.
But where I'm getting at with all this is you had to take 2019 and 2020 with Red Bull with a car that was able to win a race or two, but it got closer to Mercedes just on performance level, which allowed them to start playing with the strategy and figuring stuff out.
Right. And look, I'm not going to say that Ferrari, was a clown show all the time, because case in point, at Abu Dhabi, they got it right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there are undertones there at Ferrari where they can get it right. The problem is the amount of times they got it wrong at key points. Was
past the amount of fingers on my hands. It's just unreal. And look, and there was, I look back to the British Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz kind of was like listening to them for a bit, but there was like, look, guys, you need to stop inventing. Your strategy is not happening.
That was the one where they wanted him in the box, right?
No, they wanted him to back up.
They wanted him to back up in
seconds
and play games
on the restart,
and he was
to let Charles Leclerc go.
Right. No.
He ended up losing 25 seconds, and finished like 5th or 6th.
Yeah,
so it was never going to work.
And I think overall, I think some of these teams get too cute. I mean, I think Red Bull got too cute at Brazil.
It's true.
It gets back to Christian's point. Just race, best man win. You know what? And you know what? When it was getting down to it and Max clinched, Horner should have called them both in, and said, "Our goal now is to get Checo second." Okay. The problem was, I think this is just my opinion on this. I think Checo underperformed at Mexico massively.
Yeah, I can agree with
that. I guess my take on it is, if he underperformed at Mexico, he underperformed somewhere else during the season.
I think at Austin too.
I think there was a lot of races.
Yeah, no,
he's not
right.
He put it. He's in that position because of where he is.
Right.
He didn't really have a whole lot of mechanical issues.
Right.
And
and he did help. Like last year, he helped. I mean, there's points in the season where he helped and he did the right thing. But the point is, when they put the thing onto his lap to do what's best for him, he didn't really do it.
No.
Okay. And I think this is. I think the only team where this isn't a problem, I think, and these two are going to they're going to sort it out eventually, is at Ferrari. I think Ferrari should not have a number one driver, okay? Because I'll be honest with you, Leclerc makes a lot of mental mistakes. Carlos makes mental mistakes. They're about even, okay? They're probably the two most even drivers out there. But if they were just allowed to race and not worry about team tactics in terms of who's going to finish and, that type of stuff, I think Ferrari would be better off. Now, at Mercedes, if they come up with a better car for next year and it's more compliant to say it's more compliant for Lewis to drive, George isn't going to be anywhere near him.
If it's a championship-winning car or capable car,
Yeah, George isn't going to be near him.
Lewis will be the number one driver.
Yeah, but based on his ability and his experience and stuff, he will pull ahead of George. Okay, I think this was just a thing of George was in a less than desirable car for the last couple of years. The Mercedes, even when it wasn't desirable, was better than what he drove.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, he's younger than him. He's younger than Lewis. Okay. And if I'm Lewis, like if I'm bumping around in the car, I mean, why do I want to risk myself? Fair point, which I get to him. But, I just, at some point accountability has to come. And I just don't think, I think that's where Ferrari was like, there were problems last year, nothing had changed. They went into this year, the problems, we kind of masked over the problems the first couple of races, and then all of a sudden we had a couple issues with the car, but then we had a crash, these things happen on the pit wall, and that's where the lack of accountability came in, and the lack of leadership came in, and I really think that's what that did him in, and I don't necessarily think I honestly, do I think it would be awesome to have Fred Vasseur there? Yeah, because Fred's kind of a he's a dick.
Yeah. He puts his foot down.
He puts his foot down.
Yeah.
Would it be fine to have Gunther there? Yeah, because he's a dick. It's fine. We all like that. And you know what? In Formula One, with the amount of prima donnas that drive the cars, I like that. I don't, that I kind of enjoy that.
Because again, it is a team sport. Not individual.
Horner gets away with it a little. He's a little snarky about it.
Yeah.
But he does kind of pull it together behind the scenes. I don't think they let Helmut do the yelling and screaming because, if they did, I think somebody's going to file a lawsuit.
Yeah, probably.
Just in terms of him, but I'm kind of curious, that, but like a McLaren. It was I think it's
they missed on the development with the car.
Yeah, with the car.
So some of their stuff kind of got
right. So, but I think Seidel does a good. I think Seidel does a good job of keeping the team together.
Yeah,
I think I like Zach, but I think Zach's handling of driver talent is less than desirable. In terms of
especially after this year.
Yeah, and he, also reading the tea leaves on where Danny Rick was. Was he really worth the money to come to McLaren? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
If you're calling Monza the one great thing, making it all worth it, I don't know.
Oh, that's just the stars fell. The stars all aligned, and they got somebody got lucky. A blind squirrel found a nut.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, just getting back to where it is in the pit wall, I really think that's the problem at Ferrari, and these Plan F, Plan Z, Plan God only knows what they're talking about. I mean, seriously, it's does Mercedes do that too?
Yeah.
No, they just say it's hammer time.
Every team has code words.
It's
Ferrari, some are just more obvious than others.
Well, we know at Mercedes it's hammer time.
Right. Yeah, and my tires are gone. Are they? No.
Yeah, I know.
Come on, Bono.
That one's the tires are fine, man. They're fine. And then lap later pits. Okay, everyone.
Right.
When he says that, he's coming in. I mean, Red Bull's got. I would probably say Red Bull just kind of reacts.
Yeah.
Dude, no, I think Red Bull kind of sets the tone.
No. Well, when I say react, I think they react to the needs of their car.
Oh, yeah.
So, You know,
I guess I'm stuck on the thought of strategy.
So what do they got? They got the woman Hannah. Is that her name? The woman
Hannah, the strategist.
Hannah Schmitz. She's a strategist.
Yeah.
Same as the woman that's at Alfa Romeo.
I loved Hannah's evil smile at the Dutch Grand Prix. That was amazing.
But the two engineers, so Carlos Checo's engineer and Max's engineer. I mean, the three of them are Hannah and whoever else.
There's the whole pit wall.
There's the whole they're all working in concert. Where I think a Ferrari, like it really kind of hit the. I think Ferrari kind of blew itself up. It was after everything kind of like people were mad about everything. The next race when they were, are you okay with that plan?
Yeah.
That was like
when you're asking questions.
When you're asking questions, like this is
God.
and I mean, this was just. I think both drivers are like, forget it, and I think you know what. I think both drivers kind of lost confidence on anything that's going on in the pit wall. Not anything that's going on in the garage, but on the pit wall. And it got to the point, I think that's what Carlos did really good at putting his foot down, whereas Charles needs to be a little more like Carlos. So he maybe should go take lessons from Carlos and his dad about being assertive. Because Charles is very emotional. He is. He's very emotional. He wears it on his sleeve. God love him. But Carlos will just, the way his tone is, Max could probably do a little bit of that too sometimes. He gets a little jumpy in the car.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're leading by a mile. It's like, I'm not diminishing Max's talent.
No,
I'm just saying.
I think some of it too is how your engineer works with you, because there has been there are some engineer calls that when they go to talk to the driver, it's like, really, like I'm going 3 wide into a corner, coming around here at 7Gs or whatever. Like, that's not a good time to talk to him.
There was one like, there was Carlos was in the middle of a fight. And they were talking. And he's like,
he's like, not now. Yeah, it's like
it's
no.
I mean, I'd be curious, like back in the day, I see. This is the other thing. I think we as race fans may have too much insight.
Yes. Yeah.
Or this need to have this out there. I don't really. I'll be honest with you. I'm not
what do you
really.
mean too much insight?
Well, no. Back if you go back, so let's go back when you first started watching.
Yeah.
I don't think the level of communication that we heard from the pit wall was that much, because that's what led to having somebody like Steve Matchett in the booth, or somebody that was familiar with strategy in the booth to talk about it. But as we got more and more insight, and now that we're in this Drive to Survive
era,
it's fair game on everything. But now, I mean, the teams are out here putting their own shows on. We were just watching one tonight, and where they're talking to the drivers. So
the one thing I will say is I don't mind teams getting lap times, sector times between one another.
Yeah.
But having access to team radios, or other team radios, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
You should.
You don't?
No.
I like the FIA and Mercedes. Like, I don't know. Like, there's some good ones.
No.
No. The other teams,
like Mercedes can listen to Red Bull, and Red Bull can listen to Haas, and McLaren can listen to Alpine.
No,
and
I don't like that.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not so sure that goes on in IndyCar.
Regardless, and even if I have this twisted about F1, regardless, it's still a thing I don't like.
There's too much out there.
I mean, as far as race fans, I like the team radios and hearing what they're doing, because it is good. Yeah. It's good insight. But it also, like the infamous Massey no, or
Michael no.
Yeah, that one. I do think if you go back and listen to the onboard or whenever Toto did say that, and then it got broadcasted, it was at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So it didn't. When it got shown and everyone was like, whenever that moment came, it's like, no, that's not when when it was. So like it doesn't.
Right, and they had
it makes it look
they had
fake
other
and
stuff
all that
from
stuff.
Jonathan
So
Wheatley at Red Bull.
yeah,
it's just
right. Yeah.
it was like
you can fabricate some stuff.
Are you guys
too.
making
It's
this like?
not,
Is this really we're doing live Drive to Survive?
Right.
I like Drive to Survive as a concept. I think it's gotten to be too much of a soap opera, and we can talk about that as another event show. But look, it's unfortunate, but Ferrari definitely grew from where they were with Arriva Bene to now. But I think the mistakes.
You don't like him?
Who? Arriva Bene?
Yeah.
I loved Arriva Bene.
Yeah,
I liked him.
He
looked like a mafia guy.
Yeah, he fit the
Italian. Yeah, tough guy Italian thing. I liked it. I don't know if he was necessarily the best guy, but in terms of being on the wall.
Yeah,
But and Binotto he was there for a long time. He started in the engine department, worked his way up.
Right.
All well and good. But at the end of the day, not every guy is meant to be that guy. To run the team.
Well, that's why I'm like it.
I'll be case in point. Not many of Bill Belichick's offspring in terms of coaches, are doing quite well. I mean, Billy O'Brien's. He was doing great at Penn State. He left and he went somewhere else. And Josh McDaniels is epically failing in Las Vegas. These guys. It's just not everyone's meant to be a head coach.
Right.
Just because you come from just because you came up through the Ferrari family doesn't necessarily mean you weren't. Because when they had Jean Todt, Ross Braun, and
Stefano
Domenicali, and there was one other gentleman, James Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys all came from other teams. Mm-hmm. So, and other experiences in Formula One and sports car and rallying.
Yeah.
So, they definitely wanted to keep it in-house. Now maybe they do need a taskmaster who can ferret out that you're the technology head, that's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. You're the guy, you're the chief strategist, that's your responsibility. But at the end of the day, you guys all report to me, and that's what happened. Whereas I think Binotto just, I don't know. I think he's
a technical guy.
He's a technical guy, and I don't think he was in the right. I think he wasn't. He wasn't. He's not. Yeah, he just.
In his resignation, that's where I'm again. He's been a part of the Ferrari family and part of successful teams too. I don't think he's the issue. I think he's just in the wrong role.
He's in the wrong role. So if and the thing is he resigned from Ferrari completely.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you just go to Ferrari and say, look, I can't do this. I can't do this job. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not the guy. All right. I need to be somewhere else, maybe in a technical role somewhere, whether it's on the LMH project or whatever. But that's the the unfortunate thing. But being a team principal in Formula One, it's there's
a lot of media attention, and you also and plus it probably doesn't help that there's just F1 Twitter just going crazy on this stuff. That's probably blowing it way out of proportion too.
Yeah, guys with mohawks.
Team LH.
Team LH. His words.
Yeah.
Shaggers. That's my favorite one.
Anyway, so we now wait and see. This is kind of like a paper watch. Hopefully there'll be white smoke coming from the facility at Modena or Maranello. Yeah. So that'll be exciting, kind of like being at the Vatican when they have a new pope. So we'll see what happens.
So who do you think will be the new team principal there? Do you have any idea?
Well, leading candidate is Vasseur.
It's Vasseur, and that came out through the Italian press. Okay, so I'm going to be blatantly honest. I think that's probably. I'd be shocked if it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Worst kept secret. Fred Vasseur.
Fred Vasseur. It's gonna be Mike Hull.
But speculation.
God, like,
that would be awesome. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Speculation
so cool.
on F1 Twitter though is there is a certain driver who doesn't have a job for next year.
I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
But that was what on the
that's
F1
not
troll
site.
Yeah. It's just throwing it out there.
Anyways, I don't think Seb.
I know. No, I saw it too.
I think Seb's gonna. If anyone's taking some time off, I think Seb's gonna take some time off.
Yeah.
But anyways, so we'll see. All right. Yeah. In terms of some news,
Jeddah.
Jeddah. The Formula 1 track, yes.
They made track changes by just cutting back the walls, not moving the track, but just cutting the walls back, so there's not much of a blind spot.
So you can see more. You have better field of vision.
Yeah. So
That'll be helpful.
So yeah.
That was that big. Didn't they have the big Formula 2 wreck there? Is that when they had that?
That track is horrible.
I know.
For that. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Terrible.
It's a great high speed for driver, but like it is
it's
horrible
terrible.
if you get it wrong.
Yeah. So
right. I mean, Mick Schumacher couldn't figure it out. Both years he was there, he destroyed his car.
Clipped the car, clipped the barriers, right?
I mean, high risk, high reward track. It definitely. I mean, Max's unfinished lap is probably still one of the best that have been done.
I know.
But again, one little mistake, you're done.
You're done.
So
yeah.
And everyone lived that moment through Fernando's eyes.
Had a little small IndyCar.
Well, I think it was kind of silly when they when it was Max and Charles like kind of fighting over DRS in the second round, and like it was just like they stopped and
that
was pretty bad.
That's the issue with DRS.
DRS. You know what the other issue with DRS is, and this is what I don't like, is these tracks where you get the double DRS.
You get the double dip.
The double dip, which Brazil, get it up the pit stop, you get Melbourne. It's dumb.
So if you make the pass on the first straight, the car that made the pass still gets it.
My whole thing is, okay, you know what? If the track's meant to have one DRS zone, it has one DRS zone.
Like Imola?
Yes. No problem there.
Imola was the best.
Monaco.
Imola had rain and we couldn't turn on the DRS for the longest time, and everyone was like, no, we need to put it back on. It's time to do it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's a great three-way battle going on right now.
Some of my favorite podcast hosts were screaming about that. Yeah. But anyways, another thing in Formula 1 potentially thoughts is the idea of using wheel covers.
I saw that.
To cut the rain, the rear wheel covers to cut the spray down for rain.
I saw that. I
don't like
all
it.
I can think of now is why don't we just make them full body LMH cars? I mean,
seriously, isn't that? IndyCar tried that. They had bumpers almost.
I just think this is open wheel racing.
The thing is I hope they're not forgetting. Well, and don't get me wrong, cutting down any of it will help visibility.
So cut the tires down.
But if smaller tires do help. But the other thing, smaller tires,
smaller body,
narrow the car,
narrow the grid.
Yeah,
you can also narrow
the
treads, like the channels.
Yeah. But then. The biggest portion of all that spray is the fact that they went to ground effects this year. Like, your under tray is where all your water is getting thrown up.
I'm just gonna say, go back to the 1978 to 84 seasons. Go watch Formula 1 then. Full on ground effects, full on rain, full on high speed turbo engines. I mean V10s, V12s, and the tires I think were almost as big. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what? It's open wheel racing. I'm sorry. You know what? If there's too much spray and it's a safety hazard, don't race. Okay. But at the end of the day, let's not. I don't want any more wheel covers. I don't like the thing they got over the front brakes now. Whatever that thing is, that thing's dumb. So I mean, like, it's open wheel racing. Mm-hmm. Some IndyCar, just a quick IndyCar thing. Little switcheroo at Rahal Letterman Lanigan, Christian Lundgaard moves to the Hy-Vee car, and Jack Harvey will move over to Christian Lundgaard's car.
Mm-hmm. So what? Do they switch numbers? Is it 30?
Yeah.
They switched numbers, and I think this was sponsor driven.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, Christian Lundgaard was he's getting really good at the end of the season.
Right now, he's the team leader. Mm-hmm. So you know,
and look, I would even go as far as he's going to get a race win next year.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, very well. I mean, but again, you know, it's Rahal, it's RLL. They always have that kind of quirky bad start to the season, and they come on at the end of the season. So if they can put it together at the beginning of the season, that'd be great. So, but you know, maybe because they moved into their new facility and things like that, so that might help in terms of that. So that was kind of what happened in IndyCar this week. Not much. else?
Well, the other news that they had was they redesigned a rear attenuator.
Oh, that just broke, today.
So
the last day or so.
It's going to be
I shouldn't say broke. It was
yeah.
announced.
Well, they did break it because you got to test it.
Right.
But it's a longer and larger attenuator. So the whole point of the attenuator is to just absorb some of the energy of the crash. So that way,
from a rear impact.
from the rear. Well, this is the rear one. There is a
Yes.
front one as well.
Right.
I mean, it's in the nose
It's
cone,
in
but
the nose cone.
the rear one is where you have the rain light on there.
Case in point, the biggest time you probably would have seen this was at Indy a couple of years ago. Was it Oliver Askew?
Right.
Who backed it into the pit
Yeah.
end of the pit lane?
Yeah. So this is coming out of and this is also well
That was credited with
Yeah.
saving the car. I mean with mitigating any damage to the driver and whatever.
Yeah.
What, Spencer Piggott?
Spencer Piggott. That was
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with this, it's going to be longer and I think wider as well. But it's also the way that they're constructing it. It's actually going to be lighter. But and then the other thing to note is that with the dimensional increase of it, that you're actually going to have a bigger rain light as well. And they said that they were going to just put this on. They were shooting for this to be put on the car in 24 with the hybrid, with a new hybrid engine. But they figured why not get a year jump on it and put it on the actual car. So I mean, it's a standard piece that every team's going to get. So no one's getting an advantage or disadvantage. And then. But then the other hint or design cue that they mentioned was that they're because of the rain light being bigger, they also mentioned that the 2024 Indy cars might actually have rain lights on the wing itself, so similar to F1. So just another small tidbit there. All right.
I don't have anything
Oh,
else.
and also Daniel Ricciardo was announced as the third driver. Did we announce that last week or?
I think it was still in speculation, but he did formally announce.
He is for sure.
Yeah, he is the third driver.
So, does that kind of add pressure to Sergio Perez as maybe
Could be.
the second driver out and then bring him back?
You know, everyone talks about Carlos and Lando being like a bromance in the pits and being like the big one. I think Max and Ricardo are one that's,
even though they had the little scrum
in Baku, because you look at everything else. I'm sure when Danny Rick made the move, he was definitely looking out for himself and didn't want to be second fiddle. However, I think with the way everything's kind of played out, he's probably the guy that Red Bull's looking at to be the second driver that can challenge Max, because it's not like Ricardo got washed away by Max either. Like he could still challenge him. No. So So I think Ricardo could be that piece, but also this is, again, was Ricardo supposed to be the shining glimmering hope for McLaren? Yes, but did he turn out? No. So what Red Bull decides to do, I don't know.
Yeah, and just a couple other quick things on sports car news. The Asian Le Mans Series will be back again, 4-race series, 2 races at Bahrain, and then hopefully they'll use the Sakir circuit one day.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then the other race I think is at the other weekend's at Abu Dhabi. Is it at Abu Dhabi or is it at?
I don't know. You pulled up a calendar.
Oh, I forget where it is. I want to say I think it's Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. I guess the only other piece of motorsports news, or I guess motorsports related news, is we had the Dinner with Racers podcast. They dropped some new episodes. So a podcast that definitely probably inspired us to do our own. But they released. Nate, do you know how many episodes they released?
6.
They released I was going to say 6.
It's a 2-parter with Townsend Bell, John Morton.
That'll be good.
It was good.
I mean, all of them. Yeah.
That was quirky. It was pretty good. Graham Goodwin, Ollie Jarvis, and Renee Rast.
And then also Andy Prio.
Andy Prio. That was
I finished.
Andy Prio one was good too.
MBE.
Also, there was some good insight into his charitable foundation that he set up. So
yeah, I mean, Dad, have you listened to all of them?
I have.
Okay.
So I apologize. Just real quick on the Asian Le Mans series. It's at first race is in Dubai at the Autodrome, and then race 2 is at Yas Marina.
Okay.
The second
nice.
weekend's at Yas Marina, not Bahrain.
Sorry. And then 3 and 4 are at Bahrain, or no Bahrain?
No Bahrain. It's just the Dubai Autodrome, and then they go over to Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, and they just do 2 races.
2 races
at each.
Two races. 2 race weekend, and then they go. I think there's a weekend off, and then they go.
Okay.
So kind of condensed. I know it's not. Doesn't seem like it's Asia, but because of the constraints that are going on in Asia right now with COVID, a little tough to do it. But good on them for putting on the series at least.
Yeah. But getting back to Dinner with Racers, so you've listened to all of them.
I have.
I know Nate and I have listened to the Renee Rast one. That one was great.
I like that one a lot, and I'm part of the way through the Oliver Jarvis one. I started that one, but I'm not anywhere far into it.
Yeah,
I'll say this: the Graham Goodwin one was good because that I like that one. Graham's been around quite a while. He has some great stories. He's also it's kind of funny that now for the Week in Sports Cars, as part of the Marshall Pruitt podcast, which Graham co-hosts with Marshall. Both Marshall and Graham have been on the episodes, and Marshall actually did a show right after the Dinner with Races got released, and Marshall threw some real nice words towards Sean about Heckman about when Marshall wanted to start his podcasting, and Sean was like, yeah, we're all in this. Let's this is what we do and what I do, and I'm in the industry in terms of recording equipment and stuff, and he gave him some good insight. So that was just really good to see, and both Marshall and Graham had great things to say about the guys from Dinner with Racers and things like that. So but it's a fun listen to if you got any traveling to do. It's just pop them in. They run the gamut, in terms of getting some people. The Townsend Bell ones, it's a 2-parter. It's great stuff. So really good stuff there. And interesting story on Townsend, how he kind of did his racing. So really cool. Really cool.
I wonder if he's going to touch upon the amount of Indy 500 he did, because he does. He does. Okay, because he's done 10, maybe 12 of them.
He explains how that came to be. It's a really interesting story. And that. Just real quick, another podcast that's out there, folks, is Life with Legends. It's from Justin Bell. He's done a series of sit-down, one-on-one interviews. And if you're a long-time listener to Dinner with Races, some of them have been with some of the cast from some of the folks that have already been on Dinner with Racers. But, there was some great ones in there. And Justin brings a different perspective, being Derek Bell's son, and there's some really good stories, and just how in some of the stories where Justin was around his dad, and he was around, say, Brian Redman or whoever. There's a really poignant one with Alan DeCadenet, who is kind of a racing bon vivant from the 70s. Alan was on Speed as a race pit lane reporter at Le Mans. And sometimes on the Formula One races, and then had some of his own historic shows on Speed, and they were just amazing shows. He was definitely a character. He unfortunately passed away this past summer, and he was just recently this past week in London. He was posthumously celebrated. His life was celebrated at a gathering in London, so it was pretty cool. So that was an interesting one, and Justin just released one this week. I think it was today, with Mario Andretti. So any sit down with Mario is a good sit down. Yeah. So I think another show we were talking about doing is possibly podcasts out there that we like to listen to. We'll do some more breakdown of that and things like that.
Yeah.
So, on that bombshell.
Nate, you got anything else?
I like there's one episode of Beyond the Grid I want to listen to. It's Gunther Steiner.
Yes.
I've listened to a few episodes
Yep.
on there, and that's a really good episode podcast lineup that they have going on there.
I think the last one that Tom Clarkson just put out was with Sebastian Vettel. So
yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
But
anyways, well, we'll get into a show during the slow peak, and then this weekend, just some quick updates on racing news. We got the 12 Hours of Kuwait this weekend, Creventic race, so that'll be fun. I'll put that on the YouTube and watch it over the weekend in between the World Cup. Go USA!
Hey, yeah, how about that game, huh? Jeez, yeah.
And then next week is the big gathering at Daytona for the.
This is the official homologation.
This is the official. The official. And I believe
who's going to sandbag?
Who's going to sandbag? Now, I do believe GTD is going to be there as well in LMP2 cars.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I haven't seen the schedule yet.
LMP2 needs to get, LMP2 is going to be dialed back.
They're going to do something. But anyways.
Yeah.
But it's a big test at Daytona. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this. Unfortunately, we won't see the Ferrari. We won't see the Peugeot.
No, we won't see any of the hypercars or LMH cars. So
right.
No,
we will only
that's
see
next year.
That's next year.
Yeah.
And I think the first is the Lamborghini. That's an LMDH, right?
Yes, that is GTP. Yeah, that's coming in 24.
Will the Van Wall be there?
No,
they just finished a 2-day test at Paul Ricard.
No, their aim was for hypercar.
I know. I'm just saying they just finished another test, so they're if they can get the legal stuff resolved, that's gonna be awesome.
I know.
Just another make, and that. So we got some activity coming. There's a couple, for hardcore fans. I mean, there's still some stock car modified racing going on that you can find on the interwebs. Next couple of weeks, and the sports car scene's kind of winding down. I think there's 12 Hours of Kuwait, and then the 12 Hours of the Gulf, and that's 24 Hours of the Gulf.
Yeah,
right. That's the one the Magnusons are running, right? So those are coming up. So kind of round out the season. So, anyways, on that note,
short episode this week.
Yep, mate.
Yes. Good night.
Thank you guys for listening to the Red Mist Podcast, hosted by Christian Abbott, Sean Abbott, and Nathan Lavin. It's produced by Christian Abbott, and music is by Alex Wart and Harrison Tate.